and welcome in. I am MissKinghorn and we are back here in The Sims 4, which if any of you noticed last week I said we wasn't going to be, and we're not really supposed to be, but yeah, here we are. So, a little bit of a disclaimer, the habitat I'm building in Planet Zoo, I struggled. And it's taken a while and I couldn't get it right, and it was a toss-up between either having this build, which if anyone was here last week, no, I had already recorded, or not having a video at all. So I compromised, and here is part 2 of my mini Newcrest collection. Yeah, you will have the habitat. It's coming. I'm slowly progressing with it, but yeah, you'll see that at a later date in here. But now we are here in what was originally the lookout, which was a 30 by 20 lot, which is the second in the 5, so starting at the top, we're slowly working our way down from all of those in the Ridgeline Drive neighbourhood of Newcrest. So you can just sort of see the last build that we did last week. If you haven't checked that video out, I will put a card up in the top corner for you, and yeah, you can go and check that one out. So these are going to basically be a collection of 5 lots that work together, that look very similar, but they're all very individually based. So I'm kind of adding in tiny bits of storytelling, which I don't normally do. I tend to have like a Sims or a family in mind when I'm building, but this one I think I've gone a little bit more on the storyline with these. So last week we had 2 parents and 2 teenage girls who were a bit rebellious. This week we have a newly singled father and his 2 daughters. One of them is a child and one is an infant, and yeah, their mum has just died, and you'll see her in the screenshots at the end. Spoiler alert. In with that one. But yeah, that's what we're doing, and we are building here. Right now is another really cute little kind of modern, kind of suburban, kind of normal house. In there, they all fit together, so they're all gonna kind of look very much the same, but also be slightly different in their kind of looks and the wallpaper I'm going to use, and they're going to have their own little sort of personalities, but from the outside you're going to be able to see that they all work together, and I think that's something I really wanted to get in here as well. So we're using the new birthday windows throughout all of here, and yeah, we've also gone for sort of some wooden wallpaper, on the outside instead of sort of the concrete, and then we've brought in a little bit more of the stonework that we used last time, but this is a little bit more kind of heavy and focused on there as well. So this is actually going to become a 3-bedroom family home. So in theory it's the same number of bedrooms as last week, but they are so completely different. So yeah, but we are all girls again. For me, I always usually struggled with girls' bedrooms. I now seem to be on a roll with them. I don't really know why, but yeah, I think this is going to be the only ones though. I think the rest of them, the families, I have actually created them, so you'll sort of see those, but I think there is a couple of boys coming up. So yeah. Anyway, very pink flowers, and this kind of makes sense right here because what I have placed in is a bit of a memorial tree. So I figured the girls, maybe their mum's favourite colour was pink, and she's died, and they've placed this sort of nice big tree with big pink sort of flowers on it right outside their sort of front door. They're going to see it every day, they're going to be able to remember her. So that's kind of what I was thinking with that tree, and then using a few of the life and death pieces, I've kind of put down a little memorial underneath there, and yeah, it just kind of fills it out a nice little bit, and it just plays into that sort of storytelling. There are a few other bits and pieces that I have placed in throughout the build that kind of hint to that storyline as well. Obviously, if you download this build, you can delete those, you can play however you like, but that's kind of the story I had in my head when I was building this, which I kind of did a right sort of 360 from the last one, and saying I literally, when I finished the other one, I had finished it, I had taken the screenshots, and I was like, I just want to build. So I went straight into building this, straight off the bat of the last video. So I didn't have any kind of break or anything like that, I just went straight in there. So yeah, this is was a really fun one to do. It was very kind of different, and I think because I'd done it that way, I was like, I know what I've just done, and I know that I want to kind of change it out a little bit. So whereas that one was very kind of minimalistic, it was very clean, it was tidy, I feel like this one maybe is a little bit more chaotic. I think it's a little bit more busy family. Obviously it's a single guy with 2 daughters. He's trying his best, but he wasn't really prepared for any of this. It's kind of just been thrown on him at sort of the last moment. Like, he's not really prepared already to deal with this on his own. But yeah, he is actually a very successful author, and he works from home, so I thought it was a really nice area. We have kind of created a little bit of a study nook up in their bedroom for them. I kind of figured that maybe he had his own little office, but then they had a second child, and his office kind of had to change out and be the nursery, which you'll sort of see upstairs in that. But now we're coming into the kitchen. So where last time it was all nice and clean and green and sort of white and calm, this week I wanted to go a little bit darker with the colour scheme in here. So I used the dark wooden sort of swatches, and then my favourite home hustle bits and pieces, kitchen, sort of the cooker. I actually think I used the separate cooker from Dream Home Decorator actually, but the fridge, the sink, I love the sink. It's just those little sort of things, I think it all really ties in here really, really nicely. And then I come through and more cupboards, and then lots of clutter, which you're going to see me place in just a moment. As per usual, I only show you little snippets, especially with like the exterior and things. I feel like if I wallpaper the front, you kind of can tell I can wallpaper all of it, and the same with windows and things. One of the biggest periods in any kind of recording for me is pulling out items, and especially when it comes to the kitchen, there are so many items that I have to take out that I can't find, so I am scrolling backwards and forwards through categories so many times, and I feel like I pull out the same items. So I figured it's kind of okay to not show you. I mean, you're seeing the items here. If that's not okay and you want to see me scrolling for like, well, I think when I edited this it was something like 15-20 minutes of scrolling because I could not find things. So is that okay to leave, or do you want me just to cut it out as per what I normally do in here? It is really only the kitchen that I do this for, because the others are perfectly fine. But yeah, let me know what you think in here. But this is pretty much the kitchen done, and yeah, I realised I screwed up here. So I changed some of the, when I was placing them, I wanted some bar stools, but they were all so far apart, and it doesn't kind of really make much sense, and it was a really small kind of walkway, so I wanted them pushed in a little bit more, which obviously means that the kitchen counters then connected to the bar stools, and it wasn't going in the right place. Backwards and forwards, round and round and round in circles. Anyway, I figured that one out in there. But we're now coming into this sort of dining room, and I figured maybe they had some sort of like dinner parties, maybe they had like family round of sort of like, maybe they host barbecues or holiday sort of dinners or something like that, and they need a nice big sort of table in here I kind of quite like that idea in here, as long as it's kind of a nice big kitchen sort of diner with this big opening in here. And then I know I have placed an infant, but I'm kind of preparing. So we have got a little high chair in here as well, and I have to be honest, I say I was preparing. It's at this point that I don't realise I have an infant and I think I have a toddler. It's that same thing that we do every single time. Yeah, it's just a thing now. They're kind of the same. Obviously one's a little bit younger than the other, but I figured they could probably still go in. Yeah, it's one of those things, I forget. Oops. Anyway, as he was being a author, I thought lots of bookshelves kind of in and around the place. Maybe they're kind of like books that they've collected. Maybe when a couple were younger, they went on travels around the world. Maybe they're like maps or booklets for different countries and things like that. That's kind of what I was thinking in there. Really nice kind of books everywhere in here. But now we're coming into this living room. I hate this living room. I don't normally say that about one of my builds. This room, you didn't see the probably half an hour and the maybe 3 or 4 attempts I had at this living room. It went, I took forever because I could not get it to work. There was not enough room for what I wanted. Then it was kind of all smushed into one end, and yeah, in the end you kind of have this sort of middle living room, and then you kind of have like kid stuff on either end. It doesn't really make a lot of sense in reality, but in the game it works, so I'm fine with it. I've kind of accepted the fate that this is just how it's going to have to be in here. And this rug, I thought this was going to be perfect in here. It's a nice bright colourful fun rug, and it really goes with these sofas. I absolutely love these sofas, and yeah, I just really wanted to use them in here as well. And then we get in lots and lots of kids colour and bits and pieces in here as well. And yeah, having some sort of fun with some different colours that I wouldn't necessarily normally use. And I kind of figured with this is that maybe the mum kind of furnished this, and it's kind of her bright kind of personality that's kind of coming through in here. And then obviously with the girls, pink I think is something that you're just going to have to accept. And I'm going to be honest, you're going to have to accept it upstairs too. As I say, each of these is going to have their own kind of colour scheme, personality, and very kind of distinct style. This one I kind of went very poppy with in here. So this is the kind of second kind of memorial area to her in here. So you kind of have these little photos in here with their kind of like urn. In here kind of is a little symbol for the children that they can kind of remember her, like mum's still here. That's kind of what I was thinking with that one, with some photos obviously with some young kids as well. I thought that was a really nice kind of focal point that they can remember them. I don't necessarily know how realistic that really is, but it's what I went with in my head, and yeah, I quite like it in there as well. And now we're going to get in a little bit of a kids crafting area over this side in here. So pulling out a few bits and pieces in here, which is like the homemade sort of craft kits and things like that. And now we're on to the back garden. So yeah, again, kind of very kid heavy in here. I figured that maybe they kind of dote on these children. They sort of love them, and they kind of have created a perfect little garden and little paradise for them in here. So we get in lots of bits and pieces, and I use these lights on the plants. I know we got them with the Christmas sort of event, but I then have forgotten about them, and I don't think I've ever used them since. So kind of a nice little funny one there, because they also light up, and it kind of creates a nice little kind of collection and lighting on here for when it's a little bit darker out here as well. And then I go through and I place quite a few kids bits and pieces in as well. So we get the swing set in here. We're also, I did look at that tree, but it's so huge. Like, the tree in itself is big and it doesn't really fit with any of the other trees in the kind of area. You then have the whole, it needs such a huge sort of base, and you can't really place anything else in and around it because it then doesn't work, and yeah, it was a bit of a pain. So in the end, I got rid of the tree, and we have the swings, we have a slide, and we have a paddling pool kind of for the infant in there as well. And then we have a few little plants coming through, and we're gonna kind of create here when I find out which rock I want to use. There we go. Some kind of little rock planters. I figured these would be a nice way to kind of separate what's kind of kids areas to what's planting, and maybe let the kids know that they can't go on the plants, like they can't step over the rocks. That's kind of what I was thinking for this little area, and it creates a nice little boundary in here as well. And yeah, that's what I was thinking, and it creates a nice little space in here, and then a little bit of trim paint. Now next door I actually sort of painted everything in kind of a sort of striped grass, like very manicured and things like that, and I don't think this kind of fitted with that vibe. So this one I think is a little bit more rugged, a little bit more kind of not necessarily neglected, but you're kind of having lots of big bushes that don't need a lot of maintenance. It's a little bit more simple in here, and the grass isn't maybe so well looked after. Maybe the kids run around in it, it gets torn up, things like that. That's kind of what I was thinking and doing when I was building this sort of area out here. We do get a couple of trees in as well, but we get some more pink plants coming through as per usual. And yeah, I feel like this whole area really works in here, and I quite like it. So yeah, a few little plants. Well, I tried to get those ones in because I'm trying to tie in the plants, and especially the trees, in with what's in the world. So some of the planting might not be necessarily correct, but some of the trees usually are, and that's because I kind of want them to all tie into here. But now let's move on to the first of the 3 bedrooms. This is for the little girl in here. This takes a couple of changes, I have to be honest. So I said at the beginning I am not very good at sort of girls' bedrooms. Yeah, I struggled a little bit with this, with the colour scheme. I went through so many beds, so many wallpapers, so many different options with this, and I kind of had settled on this sort of soft pink, but then there's not really a bed that really matches. So in the end we changed this all out for purple. You're going to see me eventually do that. The bed has a little bit of purple coming through, and I figured with the sort of bedside table in there being a little bit purple, wardrobe being purple, it kind of made a little bit more sense. At least in my head. I don't know, what do you think? Should I have kept it pink? Should it be purple? Let me know down in the comments. And yeah, there's a lot of pastel pop coming through here as well. This is where I'm looking at it. You can sort of tell in the recording I'm stopping and I'm looking, and I'm like, yeah, we need to change out to the purple. But I think it still actually really works for a kid's bedroom, being that soft sort of purple in there. And I really love that feature wall of the strawberries. It just adds a nice pop and a nice difference to coming in here as well. And then creating this whole sort of little work area in here. Maybe they've got homework, maybe they're doing some crafting, bits and pieces like that. I did actually kind of place this little tablet thing down. I'm not necessarily sure if I would normally do that in here, but I knew I hadn't really used any of the that kit downstairs, so I was kind of a case of, I think I need to use a few more bits from it upstairs. So I kind of just sort of resigned myself to using it, but I think it could work in there really nicely for a little girl in here, and then the little horse with a teddy on it, why not, in there as well. And this little raccoon is so cute. I really don't think I've actually used it a great deal, but yeah. Then just a few little bits and pieces. We had one of those down in the background, so I decided not to add another one. I'm looking for posters, and I'm looking for something I can place on this wall here. In the end, I kind of go for I don't actually know what I go for. What do I? Yeah, these little pieces, because obviously I thought that she might be quite crafty. She's obviously got that area downstairs as well, so I thought a few new little posters and pictures that she's drawn up there as well. Now this is the parents' bedroom. This I kind of went for a nice grey, kind of a little bit darker in here. This bed is gorgeous, and it kind of ties in really well with this wallpaper, which I think is from Crystal Creations, but it really works in here. I'm kind of loving focus walls and feature walls at the moment. Obviously we've got one in the kids' bedroom, we're going to have another one in here as well, and I figured it just works in there. Now with this one, I have decorated both sides of the bed. Normally when I'm doing like a single sim, I don't bother because I feel like one's empty, but this one I figured I've placed down a ring from Crystal Creations. I've placed down like some flowers and a photo frame, and I kind of figured maybe it's like a family photo of like all four of them. Maybe it's like her engagement ring that he's kind of just popped on her bedside table, and some flowers that he just refreshes because he loves his wife still, and although she's not here, that's kind of what I was thinking in my head when I did this area. But I feel like it kind of has a very masculine kind of feel to it, even though it is quite grey, and it probably hasn't been decorated since she died, but I kind of feel like it has his sort of personality on it. And then I do place down some little bottles that we got from Life and Death up here. I figured maybe of an evening he could come in here and maybe watch some TV and have a little bit of a drink away from the kids, and a little bit of privacy in here as well. Now this does have two bathrooms, so he has his own ensuite, and then there is a kind of family bathroom that they both share in there as well, which I think is not too bad. It was kind of a struggle with the floor plan. This house doesn't quite really work in terms of making things easy, and yeah, I ended up having to kind of shuffle a few rooms together and trying to fit everything in, but yeah, that's what we're doing in here. And now we're going to work on kind of his little home office kind of nook area. So this was kind of one of the compromises. Originally this was part of the ensuite, and it just looked way too big, so I decided to change it out and place a little home office in here for him, and yeah, find some artwork in here as well. A few little family photos, just to kind of add in to this whole sort of vibe. And now we're getting this really nice desk. I love this desk. I think it's so simple and elegant, and yet it really, really works, and it kind of fits in everywhere. So yeah, we're going to have a nice little kind of workstation up here for him, where he can kind of sit and plug away, maybe writing his crime novels or mysteries or something like that. That's what I was kind of thinking in here. Obviously your sim can kind of go to work, he can do whatever he really wants with this area. Maybe he has a normal 9-to-5 job and he just needs to do a little bit of work when he's not at work. That's kind of what I was thinking. So you can obviously use this however you want to. And then just a few little bits and pieces of clutter in here as well. Lots of books kind of coming through with this area. And yeah, kind of tidy and neat this whole little area up and finish it off. And in the end I do place a kind of like a pinboard up here. I figured with that one, maybe if he's like writing those crime novels or something, he's kind of got like the images of the people, maybe he's got like his storyline of kind of where he wants the book to end, and he's just kind of filling it out. Maybe it's the first edit or something, that kind of thing in here. But now we're going to go into the infant's nursery, and yeah, we're back to pink. I actually filter by pink and purple in here, which I kind of understand doing. I don't tend to do too much, but yeah, this whole kind of area worked in here, and I feel like because the mum was like very pink heavy, lots of kind of pinks everywhere for her, and even when I was kind of creating her as a ghost form, I kind of used a lot of pink. So I figured that maybe they'll tie that through with both girls in here as well. And again with the feature wall, this one's a little bit more purpley, but I kind of figure we can get away with that in here. It's a little bit more subtle with this kind of rainbow effect kind of squares on here. So yeah, lots of the storybook nursery kit coming in here as well. I have play tested everything, so everything does actually work throughout this build. And it's at this point I'm realising I do not have a wardrobe, so we kind of have to smoosh this one in here. There's quite a few windows in this build, which made things a little bit more challenging, I have to be honest. But yeah, we managed to get it all in, and you can access the crib and things like that as well, so that kind of works in there really well. And just putting in a few little bits and pieces, but we're coming up to the end of this, so you can download this right now, and I'll see you very, very soon. Alright, bye everyone!